We were touching on a minute ago about how sports is having an absolute, it's always had a renaissance, but now it's going crazy, right? It is the only thing people watch live on TV. Sports valuations are going up. We're just coming off the Super Bowl. We got the NBA All-Star Game next week. I mean, you all have such experience in that world, so as players, as executives, you name it. Like, what is exciting right now? What is super, like, what does everyone in this room need to know about what's happening in sports is where it's going? And you're next to me, so you get
yeah,
first.
Fantastic. Well, I think what excites me about sport beyond anything is just the fact that the majority of the professional sports that are played in the United States specifically, but globally, have just expanded so much. Like the NBA is not a game of players from the United States. In fact, it's far from it. Steve could talk much more about that. And baseball is the same way. A third of Major League Baseball teams are made up of players born and from outside of the United States. So I think that's exciting. The competition has never been higher. The level of play has never been greater. And it's because of the influence of athletes globally that are making that happen.
That's amazing. What are you seeing from your angle?
To me, using sport as a vehicle to empower the youth through health, mental health, physical health, and emotional health would increase the country's hope and pride. To me, the vehicle of sport will definitely help a country enhance itself.
Wow, very cool.
Thank you. For me, the exciting part about sports right now is all these new games coming up. You know, you have, as a member of the IOC now, we're looking at going to Saudi Arabia for the e-sport games. Yeah. So when you have International Olympic Committee looking at new development, how to include the youth, and coming from a Mongolia country with 70% of the population under 35, we want to promote sports for the youth because we want them moving, we want them healthy. And then you have new games, skateboarding, you have surfing. So in Mongolia, we are now have the first curling team going to Harbin Winter Asian Games.
Very cool.
So these are, everything is exciting.
Well, we notoriously had breakdancing in this.
Exactly. I didn't want to mention it yet, but I think that's not in LA anymore.
Well, Steve, you're at the forefront of so much American, sports and everything. What are you seeing right now?
Well, I'm coming off an incredible year last year because I have a soccer team in Italy called Atalanta, and for the first time ever, they won the European Championship, and within 2 weeks, we won the Celtics Championship. So it's been. But what's been incredible is sports are globalizing, and with streaming technology and the things that we bought the Celtics in 2003.
Yep.
There was no streaming. We counted fans in the hundreds of thousands. Now teams can have billions of fans because they're global. If you look at things like Manchester United, Liverpool, Man City, you can count billions of fans because of the technology, and so that's really expanded the sport. So basketball is global, soccer is global, baseball is almost global. So it's going to be a whole new world the next 20 years. Really, the globalization and ubiquitous of ability to watch sports at any time and any place is going to be incredible.
And Steve, you're from Boston, and the Boston Celtics are one of the New England's greatest exports to the world. What does it mean for a culture and for a city when not only do you have a famous team but a world champion? Like, what does that championship? What did that do to the region?
Well, Boston may be the number one sports city in the world because we've had so many championships with the Patriots, the Red Sox, and the Celtics. And the Celtics go way back to the 1940s, and of all the NBA championships, the Celtics have won 18 now. That's the most of any team. The Lakers are second at 17, so we're glad we won this one last year. And some of the people don't count. The Lakers used to be the Minneapolis Lakers, so some people don't count those 6 in Minneapolis, but I count them. So it's 18 to 17. But it's also been great. We set up something called the Boston Celtics Shamrock Foundation, and sports can be incredible for development. So that's a charity that supports children's health care, education, physical activity, and that's been very powerful in the Boston community to kind of link the players in with kids, the hospitals, people in need, and so the whole region is behind the Celtics and behind the teams in Boston, so it's incredible.
Well, my folks are from Boston, but I was raised in New Jersey, but I was brainwashed to be a Red Sox fan, so it was a very tough upbringing until the championship, so I know how it feels. I live and breathe it.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and again, the city of Bergamo, which is right near Milan, They had not won a championship in 100 years and won the championship. And the Celtics parade was incredible with 1 million people there. And it took about an hour and a half to go through all of Boston on these duck boats. We had a bus, a double-deck bus in Bergamo at the top of the mountain there. And it's about probably 5 kilometers down to the bottom. It took 5.5 hours because people lined the streets, and they had to have police move the people out of the way, and flares were going off. So sports is just an incredible, passionate thing for everybody in these cities.
Well, Jeremy, you played in many teams across the state, across America. What did your teams mean for all those cities you played for?
Well, I think many of you have experienced this if you're sports fans, but Kansas City is where we won the World Series 10 years ago this year, 2015.
Congratulations.
Thank you, yeah. And to see the community just rally in such a unique way, it's like sport just completely diminishes all differences in so many ways. It brings people together, it unites them, and I saw that. Kansas City is a smaller city, a smaller community, but there was not a soul there that didn't recognize and empathize with what was going on there, and it just rallied us in a unique way. Our parade had over 1 million people present there, which was probably the largest gathering of people from Kansas City in the history. And so, it happens in so many different ways, but that unifying power of it.
Amazing. Well, Kansas City had a tough week this week, but they've had a good roll.
Yeah, they've had many more parades since we won, and not this year, unfortunately.
How do you all see sports as not just a cultural export, but as an investment and as a business, and especially the Olympics? Forget it; that's a whole global corporation. But what do you see as owners, investors, cheerleaders in a way for the sports? Like, where's it going, and where are the opportunities? What's exciting?
That's a great question. I was born into legacy. My father won an Olympic medal in 1972 in field hockey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My mother captained India in basketball. So I was very blessed to be born into this family at a very young age to understand what my legacy was about. But I feel a lot of people don't know their legacy. And I think as a government or as a nation, when you help people realize what their legacy is and then empower them through sport to live that legacy, you become a rich country. So sports education is my take on the answer to your question. Invest not just in academics, but invest in sport in the schools. What does that help? Today, every child goes through mental stress. Whether it's social media, whether it's peer pressure, whether it's sitting on a stage, whether it's getting up in a classroom, your marks, every child is struggling with mental stress. And through sport, we learn how to fail well. We learn how to pick ourselves up off the floor every time we fail, dust ourselves off, and move forward. And I think the beauty of sport is to teach those leaderships, to teach the teamwork, to teach those mental skills that are so required to become champions like this. I feel that sports education is imperative in a country that is developing and wants to succeed. If I could use a simple example, François Pinault, the big rugby captain and World Cup champion with Mr. Nelson Mandela, Madiba, in South Africa, they used rugby as a vehicle to empower the youth. They ended up winning the World Cup, made a huge difference to the country, and just as the good man on our side here, you do such great jobs in creating jobs for the community, creating happiness for the community, putting bread and butter on the table. To me, I have tremendous respect for what you do because you create lives and you create family. So thank you.
Very cool.
For me, I think it's not just an investment in health, but it could be an investment in a marketing of a country. So you use these big events like the Olympics or Football World Cup, and then you bring, so for example, we brought our Mongolia house. We built 2 gears, which is a nomadic yurt, and we had it in the Parc La Villette during the Paris Olympics, and we showed Mongolian horse fiddle, Mongolian culture, Mongolian food, and not many people know about Mongolia, because we're sandwiched between China and Russia. We're an independent, democratic country, but we wanted to promote tourism. We want to promote tourism, and we use these big events like Olympics, professional teams, and we invest and partner with them. And so the Mongolian government is now partnered with Fulham FC and the football team in the UK. And the practice jersey has Go Mongolia logo on it. And it's access to 130 million viewers or fans of football that says, oh, where's Mongolia? How can we get that opportunity to visit an experiential trip there? So it's not just an investment into the pure business format, but it could be an investment in the country's promotion of the diplomacy and culture and history.
We've been talking about the growth and the positive of sports, but let's talk about not the negative, but what is making everyone kind of stay up at night? What are the risks? What are the things everyone worries about as this great trajectory? There's so much change happening, not just in culture, but also in the media, in social media, how everything is consumed. Like, Steve, what are you worried about these days? I know you have all the rings, so it's a good time. But like, what are you building for and against?
I think in the U.S., one of the big issues is what happens with college sports. We're in a period of great uncertainty, and college sports are basically professionalizing. So there are what's called NIL. The courts have said that college players can be paid. So in a sense, there may be someday where teams from different colleges are bought by owners and represent those colleges. So right now we're in massive flux on that. Also, I think the other issue we worry about is certainly in global soccer, salaries are out of control. There's not a central force or a collective bargaining agreement like there is in the U.S. And so I think one of the big issues in Premier League and many of the leagues is if you have a system where certain teams can spend as much money as they possibly can and other teams can't, you won't have competitive balance. So I think Europe's got to figure out how to get better competitive balance, among those leagues and some more rules. They've introduced financial fair play in England, which I think is a good thing, and they've got to go further down that track to make sure that everybody has a chance to win, because if you just have a few teams that can win all the time, it's not great for the sport.
You're a professional athlete and now an executive in this business. What is your take? How has your experience as a high octane athlete, based on the business now? Like, how has that affected you, and what do you see with your experience?
I think one of the things I see that would maybe concern me is the way that youth sports are taught in this day and age. It's so hyper specialized in the sense that means an athlete, a young player, chooses much earlier to focus on one sport and one sport only. And I think the ability to be well-rounded, athletes that participate in multiple different sports learn different skills. They learn teamwork. Frankly, a baseball player can be very selfish. It's a very individual sport, maybe not as much as tennis, but...
Especially pitchers.
Yes, especially pitchers. We can be very self-consumed. And so as a younger athlete, I played basketball and football all the way through high school. And I learned not only great emotional and mental skills from the other sports, but I learned great physical strength as well that really helped me as a baseball player. So that's a concern I have when I look at the way coaches are forcing players to do that. It's an awful lot of stress and pressure when you put all of your eggs into one basket, and so many of youth in the United States, and I presume in some regards worldwide, are all in on one thing and one thing only, and that never produces a good result, in my opinion, for the majority.
In my area, there's first graders playing year-round soccer or travel baseball, and that's all they do. They're 7 years old. It's kind of crazy. Especially tennis world starts early, right?
Yes, you do. You start when you're about 3 or 4 years old. And when you look at sport as a whole, not everyone gets to stand on a podium or gets to wear a wonderful World Series ring or gets to win Wimbledon 6 times or gets to be in the Olympic, for a country like Mongolia, or gets to run franchises all over the world. I think the biggest stress to the community is failure. And sport teaches you how to fail gracefully, but more importantly, like Jeremy said, how to learn from it. That when a country invests in their community through sport, you're raising the quality of life for the community. You're raising the quality of health for the community. And in this modern day and age, stress is the biggest downfall for any country. The youth are going under so much of stress. And I think through sport, mental health is a big thing that to touch on. In schools, in clubs, in professional academies, you don't have to win and be on a podium or wear a ring or hold a trophy to be a champion. Just to pick yourself off the ground, get out there, face your fears, and be the best you can be every day. To me, that's my champion.
What is talking about inspiration, and I'm working a lot with social media, and social media in sports is changing like crazy. And Steve, I was lucky enough to go to Fenway Park this year, and there's there's a whole hallway with all the Sports Illustrated covers with the Red Sox. And growing up, you'd wait for Sports Illustrated to come in the mail every week, and that was like the zeitgeist, and that was what the talking points were for the sports week. Now it's it's no more, really. Sports Illustrated is basically gone, and everything is social media, and you go to games, and they're watching on an app or they're shooting on an app. Like, it's made it extremely universal, but also some challenges. Like, how is social media shaping all of the sports worlds? And also the athletes have a direct, thank God you didn't have it when you were playing, right?
Well, I did have it when I played towards the end of my career.
The end.
I only screwed my life up a few times with regrettable decisions.
But how is it, what are some of the positives and negatives of this streaming, social media, super connected world?
I think the real positive of it is we have more connectivity with the fans. So when I grew up, the players were kind of isolated, and you'd sit up in the stands and watch the games. So when we got the Celtics, we said we really want to really have more connectivity, and there was no social media back in 2003. So everything's expanded. Now we have millions of people watching on Instagram, X, all the medias, and it's allowed the athletes to get closer to their fans, and it's allowed the athletes, frankly, to monetize their brand as well as the team's brand. So I think largely it's been a good thing. The bad part of it is you have young people coming into the sports, and now it's the kind of the scrutiny is 10x. And so if you I used to say tweet, but I guess it's now if you X something out, and you're a young player coming in, you don't realize it could offend somebody, it can kind of really spiral out of control. So we really have to make sure these athletes understand that now that they're under a huge microscope, and what they say has global ramifications, because it now goes to 5 billion people around the world. And so that's a danger, but it's also a plus.
Yeah, especially the stars. I mean, you have like Ronaldo and Messi are some of the most followed humans on the planet. And it's a responsibility, but also such amazing opportunity for their brands. And that's just, how about the Olympics? I mean, the Olympics, there's so many events going on, but it's also amazing how all the memes that came out of the Olympics this year and all like the moments, like how do you think about that social media when, especially with the Olympics, when you might have 20 amazing things happening at once and everyone can only watch so much in real time?
Yeah, I think social media helps also for countries get connected to their athletes, what athletes are doing, what they're facing, the matches coming up. So we feel that social media helps kind of smaller countries without maybe access to full TV channel broadcasting for every event. They get access to the athletes and how they're doing live. And sometimes we see this in this, developing countries, or where IOC is now doing Youth Olympics. I don't know if, and the next one is in Senegal, and they're using social media, AI, technology to identify potential Olympic athletes in the farthest provinces. So this is one of the reasons we are, from Mongolia, is proposing to host the 2030 Olympics, is because we don't know what kind of potential Olympic future athlete might be in the farthest province in the west or in the south in the Gobi Desert. So what they do is they put this AI now, technology, they have athletes or kids, students go through this training and say, okay, let's use AI and let's use social media and promote these youth athletes and say which has potential to be in the next Olympic Games, next World Championships, and identify them from like 10 or 11. So this actually gives digitalization to potentially finding future athletes as well.
Fascinating.
And people are consuming the games differently now. So if you look at the NBA, millions and millions of views of certain plays, dunks, certain endings of games. So you not only people watch the games, but this gives opportunity for people to be on the bus and watch the key highlights of the Celtics, their key players. Technology is incredible. You can watch highlights of the game. You can watch the game in 20 minutes, and that's what today's fan can be 24/7 into the sport.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for SportsCenter to come on anymore to see the highlight reels. Jerry, were you going to add something?
No.
Oh, sorry. Well, we have a minute left. I want a really quick, jaw-dropping, bold prediction about your sports and industries coming up in the next, what we're going to see in the next 5 years. Steve, you're the end, so you get to go first. Give me a big, bold Boston prediction.
Celtics championship in 2025.
Oh, there we go. That's not that bold, but that's it's easy. Good odds in Vegas for that.
So for me, I don't know, Winter Olympic medal for Mongolian as a president of the Mongolian National Olympic Committee.
Oh,
that's what I hope for.
What's the sport? What's the sport?
Curling.
Curling. All right.
I thought you were going to say surfing.
No, not winter. Curling.
Love it. Leander?
my prediction will be that governments will realize that sport is a great vehicle to empower its community and youth and create a better economy over the next 10 years. I think the world will be a better place once the governments support their youth through sport.
Wow, very cool. And Jeremy, you get the
My
final
prediction
word.
is that Nikola Jokic will enjoy the celebration more if they happen to win instead of wanting to get back to his farm. No, I just think that you're going to see baseball grow. This weekend, actually, Baseball United is going to play baseball games here locally with a number of former Major League players. The bold prediction is that Major League Baseball will take games to places in the world that you could never imagine.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. This was a fantastic panel. Thank you all.